quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
We have with us a producer we've had on the show in the past. Been about a year or so since we last had him on, but things have changed. There's a lot of new dynamics that are going on. Chris SD is on the phone with us today with Sync Songwriter. He had some valuable information the last time we had him on the show, dealing with licensing, getting your music into film and television. He's since then has created a new workshop, and we're going to get into all that. But anyway, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thanks for having me.
As a little bit of a refresher, and for those that maybe didn't hear the previous episode, you've been in the business for quite a while now. How'd you get started?
Yeah, so I started off as a musician. You know, I was in a band and stuff like that. And the writers, sort of the main writer and I amicably parted ways. And the whole time when I was in my band, I was always wondering, how did they create the magic in the studio? I was fascinated by the recording process. So I ended up getting like a home studio, recording friends for beer, basically, and then just kind of went from there and worked my way up and became a music producer and had more and more success doing that. And this was in Canada, where I'm from. And I was originally, in a small town. And then I moved to the big city of Toronto and got a big job in a big studio and started working with some fairly big artists, like, worked with Chris Christopherson and Bryan Adams. I was on a Feist, assisted on a Feist record, and Engineer of the Year. I was nominated as Engineer of the Year and won the records I worked on won 7 Juno Awards, which are Grammys for Canada. Right. So I had some great success up there. And at the same time, I was working with indie artists. They were my passion because they didn't have the labels and the publishers and all of that helping them along. And, we go into the studio and we really put our, blood, sweat, and tears into a record, try to make it into something really, really great. And then I kept seeing it sort of, we'd put all this work and energy into it, and it would just sort of drift off into the abyss. Nothing would happen with it. And I was thinking, man, they just don't have the infrastructure behind them to make something happen with the record, like the other artists I worked with that were on labels and all of that. Right around that time, I knew a musician who was broke and really couldn't pay their rent. And they got a song licensed in TV. It was a show. And they made enough money from that license to pay the rent for the whole year, basically. And I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. So you just put music into TV or film and they pay you to do it. And then, of course, found out, you get all this exposure and, you make instant fans because a lot of the people watching the show or the particular kind of movie are like a built-in fan club, right? They're already into that kind of show. And if the show plays your music, that means it matches the show. So now you have a fan base that's already primed for your music. And I thought that is really cool. And that is a really amazing way for indie artists to make money without having to tour. Of course, touring's great and all the other stuff indie artists do to make things happen. But licensing was so easy. It was a question of just getting it into the right hands. Well, of course, that's not as easy as, it's not as easy to do as it said, right? So how would you do that? So how would people connect with these music supervisors, who are the people in movies and television shows who basically make all of this happen. They're the ones who vet the music and clear it and talk to the directors and the producers to make sure that they're getting the right music into the scene. That is such a big challenge for indie songwriters nowadays. It's like, how do you connect with the right people? A lot of artists just upload music into the great internets, the clouds of the internets, and nothing happens, right? They're just waiting to be discovered. And of course, there's like millions of songs up there. So these are some of the huge challenges that I saw. And as I was going through this with indie artists and helping them make their albums, I started to look into music licensing. And, at first it was fail, strike out. And, I wasn't getting through to anybody at all. And then slowly I started to figure out, the first thing that I figured out finally was that you had to send music supervisors what they were looking for when they were looking for it. And so that was a huge revelation. And the first time I was able to do that and actually land a sync, I was like, this is awesome. Like what a cool secret. It felt like, why didn't I realize this in the first place? So through that, I developed these sort of 5 steps that I kept following to help artists get their music into TV and film, worked over and over and over again. So long story short, I ended up moving down to the US. I live in LA now to do the sort of the same thing with production. And I just started, helping people get their music into TV and film. And then it just sort of blossomed and exploded into this current thing we have going now, which is Songwriter. And now I have tons of people coming in and a big community and lots of successes for people who are in our community. The biggest sort of challenges that indie songwriters run into, as I said before, is like, how do you even start getting in front of these people who can make all these decisions? That's the big one. And then the second one, which I alluded to earlier, is like you upload these songs. Sometimes you upload them into music libraries. These are usually non-exclusive libraries, meaning that you can shop your music while it's in the library, but no one in the library is shopping your music. It's just sitting up there in this huge catalog, and you're like a needle in a haystack.
Let's back up for a second, because I think you brought up a valid point. It's getting the right music into the right music supervisor's hands at the right time. There's a ton of television shows, a ton of films, a ton of video games, all coming out every week. And if you listen to any of that, close your eyes, and I think we discussed this in the last podcast we had you on, close your eyes, you're going to hear the music. It's somebody's music out there. Might even be a television commercial. You don't know. But somebody has created that body of work. But once again, it's that word right, getting the right music to the right music supervisor at the right time.
You got it, Bob. I'm glad that sunk in.
Yeah.
Or you already knew that. That's great.
I'm a quick learner.
That is, and that is the first step that I use out of my 5 steps. And I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. You're absolutely right. That's like absolutely the first thing that you do.
That's not an easy thing to do, though, initially, I would think. I mean, first of all, unless you have intimate relationships with a plethora of music supervisors, it's a lot of cold calling, wouldn't it be typically?
Well, this is one of the challenges that we had to surmount. So how would I get my members of my community in front of music supervisors and get them to trust them? So one of the other challenges, right, when you're trying to connect with these people, it's not just how to, it's not just what's their email address or how am I going to get them to read it, or, can I even call them or something? There's a real lack of trust between music supervisors and indie artists. And the reason for that is because generally music supervisors want to go to trusted sources for their music. There's so many people trying to get their music into TV and film that they go after usually labels and publishers and licensing agents.
So let me ask you this. What is the reason for the lack of trust? Is it because are there copyright issues or PRO issues, or what's the strategy behind? Maybe that's not even the right word, but what is the reasoning behind why there's that trust issue or lack of trust to work with the indie artists, say, over the record labels, the established mainstream? Right.
Okay. So there's 2 big ones right off the top. So the first one is that publishers, labels, and licensing agents act like a sort of a filter. So they filter out all the music that these entities know will not make it into licensing. So the production quality is not great. The delivery, the recording isn't great. You know, the delivery of it, the songwriting may be lacking, right? Unfortunately, there's tons of people that have records out, and they're not all great. It's just a reality. And it doesn't mean that they can't be. I mean, they can be, right? They can definitely be pulled up and made into something really, really awesome in the right hands. But there's just a lot of stuff out there that just cannot get into TV and film, unfortunately. So these entities act like a filter. So that's the first one. So when a music supervisor goes to a trusted, licensing agent and says, "Hey, I need like a summer fun pop song. What do you got?" They know that everything that they're sent, like everything, is going to be licensable. It's going to be quality tracks. The songs are going to be good. The singing is going to be great. The production is going to be great. Now, the second thing is that the nightmare for a music supervisor is that they get your song, say you're a songwriter, and you get your song out to a music supervisor, and they say, "Great, do you own the lyrics and do you own the copyright?" You're like, yeah, it's all good. Everything's cool. Everything's cleared, right? Clearance is what that really is called.
Right.
They say, "Awesome." So they go to the director, they go into the spotting session, and then the music gets put right into the show, and awesome, everything's done. Well, just before the show comes out, all of a sudden, that buddy of yours who was in the band or whoever says, "Hey, wait a minute, I played bass on that, or I added this part to it, and I don't want you to put that out, or I want to cut, or whatever." It turns into basically a nightmare.
Because we've talked about that on other shows, where as an artist or a producer going in the studio, there's a difference between, of course, demo cuts and master cuts, and also that work for hire, getting that release done from session players.
Yeah.
To prevent something like this happening.
Exactly. And so that's one of the big reasons why music supervisors don't trust indie songwriters to know all of this stuff or to have done it, right? So what happens in a scenario like that, and this stuff actually happens. I know music supervisors who have told me that it's happened to them. And what happens is that suddenly the director's looking at the supervisor saying, "The show's going out or the movie is coming out. What do you mean we got to replace the song? You didn't do your job." And then, of course, the supervisor's looking at, the songwriter being like, so, bridges burned, right? All over the place. Very bad situation. So music supervisors want to go after people that they trust, or entities that they trust. So how does an indie songwriter gain the trust of a music supervisor? Well, that's exactly what I set out to do in Sync Songwriter. And then I created this workshop, which basically covers those 5 steps that I use to do that, to basically not only earn their trust, but actually get their music in front of them. And that is, the first step we just talked about, right? So like targeting, you want to target your music to what you're going after. So
let's take a break. And then when we come back, let's talk about those 5 steps and also talk about this does benefit the indie songwriter. Music licensing, it's a great thing for songwriters to get your music licensed to film and television. But let's cover some of that when we get back. On the phone with us today here in the studio, Chris SD with Sync Songwriter. He is originally a producer out of Canada, now living in Los Angeles, working with film and television. And we're going to talk some more about how the independent artists can get their music into film, television, commercials, video games, etc. And you're listening to this edition of...
Hey, this is Bob Ekman of Country Music Fantasy Camp, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site. Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Hey, you're listening to another edition of the Business Side of Music. On the phone with us today here in the studio in Nashville, Tennessee, Chris S.D. with Sync Songwriter out of Los Angeles, California. And we're talking about the independent artist getting their music into film and television, which is basically you're creating a music bed for whatever piece that's out there, and there's content always being created. So if there's content always being created, then there's music beds that need to be provided, whether it's a feature film or television series or a video game or a commercial, whatever it is, you know, they need music. So there's a way for the independent artist to make money. It's not all just the record labels anymore, but the independent artist can really take control of that facet of their career. And you said something in the beginning, there's money to be made there. This is a conversation we've had with songwriters. You don't make money getting your song played on radio anymore. Nobody's really selling, or I should say, very few artists are selling CDs anymore. And what they are is typically selling on the road. There's not a lot of money to be made there. So how does the songwriter make money? Getting your music licensed for film, television, gaming, it is definitely the next generation.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing that you were talking about in terms of making money is that you make the money right up front with the sync fee, which is incredible. So as soon as you get your music into a show or ad or movie or whatever, you're actually making a sync fee, and then you get back end royalties, right, that start coming in. And I know, like, you know, people who make 6 figures on back end royalties alone. So that is incredible.
What we call mailbox money.
There you go. Exactly. So, you know, while you're touring or you're doing other things, you've got this income coming in through these syncs. So, you know, as I was kind of saying, like these 5 steps that I sort of developed for this was to gain the trust of music supervisors and then get your music in front of them. And so that's when I created this, free workshop that people could go in and learn this thing. There are 5 steps that are in the workshop. The first one is targeting. And you were talking about that at the beginning. Like, how do you get music that is what they're looking for when they're looking for it? So how do you do that? You know, there's a bunch of ways that you can do it. One easy, simple way is to go to a site called tunefind.com. That's TUNEFIND, tunefind.com. And you go to that site and you can see all the music that's been put into shows and movies and all of that. It lists everything. So if you go to a show that you like, or you look up a band that you sound similar to, you can find out where they've been placed. Now, all of a sudden, if your style of music sounds like another band that got into these shows, guess what? You probably can too. So that's how you start to refine your targeting, where you start to, weed out the things that you know are not going to work, and you focus on the things that you know are going to work. Right. And then the next step is writing. So like when you're writing for TV and film, you can do it that way. Or if you're an artist and you already have songs, you don't have to like sell out and write strictly for TV and film or anything. All you have to do is you just simply need to pick your songs according to certain rules. So like one of those things, one of the many is, things like universal lyrics work great. What that means is that if you have a song, say, that's written about New Orleans, Well, guess what? You're only going to be able to get into shows and movies and stuff about New Orleans or that have some sort of tangential relationship to that. If you have a song that is a lot more relatable, right, that people can really relate to on different facets in different ways, it could be used in a lot of different types of licensing opportunities. And then the third step is your music production. And this one is this is like a trapdoor for a lot of people. And it's the easiest one to avoid. So what happens often is that artists they like get their computers in their home studio, and they do everything in the box, and they start recording, and they buy it and they say, I'm a recording engineer now. And they start doing it, and then they mix it themselves and they master it themselves. And inevitably what happens is that you end up with a beginner's product. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing stuff at home. That's the way I started, right? I started in a home studio. So that's cool and that's awesome. The problem is it takes time to get better. So you're wasting great songs on bad production.
Right.
And the thing is, when a music supervisor gets your song, they're extremely busy people, right? So when they decide to listen to your song, or whoever it is, a licensing agent that you're looking for representation, or publishing a company that you use all the 5 steps to do anything you want. You go after high-end representation, go after music supervisors, go after label deals, publishing deals. Whenever those people are going to listen to your song and they hit play, the first thing they hear is not the song, right? They can't hear the song in 5 seconds. They just hear the production. They get a really good sense of what the production level is in the song. The thing is, in music licensing, if it doesn't sound professional, if it doesn't sound like everything else getting into TV and film, they instantly hit stop, and they probably just relegate you to the junk mail because they know you don't know what you're doing. So that's the easiest one to avoid.
Don't you think it's accurate to say that quality in, quality out, if you don't spend the time to create a good body, maybe I should say this, if you don't spend the time to create a great body of work, all you're doing is hurting yourself.
Absolutely.
Don't record in the bathroom. Don't record in your garage. Spend the time to get it out there, because you said it. You get one shot at this. And if you think you have a great song, but it sounds like crap, that's probably it. You're never going to be able to submit anything else, at least for not a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And, the other way to look at it, too, is just using a little story. I used to have an old VW van, 1969 VW van, and I used to tune it up myself, right? So I used to go and buy all the parts, and I got all the tools for it, and every, twice a year I do the valves and do the whole thing, and I kind of kept it in tune. And it took time and effort and straight knuckles and all of that. And then one day something happened. I guess maybe it was a repair, and I went down, and there was this old guy. He'd been doing it his whole life. And I brought it into him, and he went in there and did what I do. And the engine purred like a kitten, like it had never run before. And that was like the light bulb went on. It was like, wait a minute. Why am I not focusing on what I'm truly good at? If I don't really, really enjoy working on the engine, which is a whole different story, then why don't I just hire or delegate people who are not in what I call your genius, right? Everyone's got a genius that they're good at. Everyone's got this thing that they're really good at. And if you focus on that, that's where all the returns are going to come. If you're a great songwriter, but a crappy singer, awesome. Who cares, man? I mean, just write great songs and then hire or get your friends who are awesome vocalists to sing them. If you're a great singer and a great songwriter, but you just suck at home producing and mixing, hire somebody out. Don't, the amount of time it takes you to do it and learn it, you're just like you said, Bob, you're just hurting yourself. So really think about this as a team effort, right? When you're thinking about producing something, right? And you're not going to be great at everything. I'm a award-winning music producer. I do not master records. I suck at mastering, I just don't do it. I hired a mastering person. So I'm dwelling on this a little because it's the biggest thing that you can avoid, right? Is basically the production trap. And then the fourth step is vetting your music. So what you want to do is you don't want to make that decision yourself. You don't want to say, I've got this great song. I love it. I think it's cool. My girlfriend loves it, or my boyfriend loves it, or my mom loves it, or whatever. You don't want to just kind of go with that. You want people who are impartial listeners to tell you what's great. Another quick little story is I was going out with this girl a long, long time ago, and she said, I love this song. This particular song was a hit on the radio. She says, it's so great. And I said, that's like easy, man. That's like the simplest pop song ever. And she goes, oh, you could never write one like that. And I said, yeah, I could. And so I made a bet with her. And so she went out somewhere, did something, or I saw her the next day or whatever. And then I said, here's my song, and I played it for her. She goes, wow, that's really good. I said, yeah, but I don't write that stuff. I mean, it's this like fluffy pop thing. No. And I joked around with my band about it. And they're like, dude, that's awesome. Like, this is a good song. And I'm like, no, I don't want to record it. It's not my thing. And I don't think it's that great. And they said, come on, we're doing a record. Let's just throw it on the record. Well, guess what? It ended up being our biggest radio played song ever. Right. So you are not always the best judge of what is great. And that's why
your own material. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the way it goes. And the other thing is that you understand a song through and through, right? When you start writing, you're the one in the moment. You're the one who understands the backstory. You understand the characters in the song. Like you might be writing it about somebody in particular. You know the whole thing. A listener has no clue to what the whole drama behind the song is. You have to translate that through music and lyrics to the listener. Some translations are done better. So the song that means the most to you may not be the best translator for what that thing is to your audience.
Right.
So that's why you want to have build a vetting group up, which I explain to people how to do. And then really, really important, you have to ask particular questions at particular stages. You don't say, for example, is my song good? Right? People are going to kind of give you a general answer. A lot of people will be polite and say, yeah, it's great. Even maybe they don't like it. You want to ask them things like, who does my vocal remind you of? Like, that's a key question, because that question helps you target your music. And you'd be like, I never really thought my music sounded like that, or my vocal reminded people of that artist. Who knew, right? But now you've got this knowledge to target your music. So that's why vetting is important. And then the last step is pitching your music, right? It's actually, this is where you put all of the pieces together. And then this is when you get it in front of the people that matter. Now, there's some really important things about pitching. You want to sound like you belong in the community. You've got to speak the speak. And of course, you have to back up what you're saying. So there's a lot of different things that music supervisors want to hear from professionals in the industry, that they hear every day from publishers and licensing agents and, high-end libraries and people and artists who know what they're doing. They're going to know instantly that you're a beginner if you don't know how to format your email, or if you're talking to them at a conference or something. They're going to know that you don't really know what you're doing, and that scares them. So the fifth step's really important, and that's something that I show people how to do. Is what should you put in your subject line? What's the important stuff in the body of your music? One big tip that people blow all the time is never attach your music to your email. Music supervisors hate that. It just clogs up their inbox. You want to put it up on a platform that they like. There's several platforms that they really, really like, and you put it up on there, and then they can stream it and download it.
Right.
So that's like a key thing. Metadata, another huge one. So many people send music without the metadata in it. So what happens is that they'll get the song, they can't get to it right away, or they put it on their hard drive, they lose the email because they get so many emails. Then they go in and they remember your song, they go to the spotting session, boom, they're going to pick it. They go into the metadata to find out who you are, and there's nothing in there.
Right.
They can't find you. They don't know. And so what happens? Out it goes, in goes a new one. So those are two basic things about pitching that are important. But all of these 5 steps add up to, the Art of the Song Pitch, which is the workshops, the Art of the Song Pitch workshop. And that's a free workshop where I show people exactly how to go through these steps and sort of what to do and why they're important.
Let's go ahead and take another little break, get a word in for our affiliates who help support the show, sponsor the show. And when we come back, let's talk about how people can get signed up for this free workshop, where they can find it, and what they can expect. On the phone with us today, Chris S.D., who is with Sync Songwriter out of Los Angeles, talking about, getting your music licensed for film, television, and all those other amazing platforms that are out there that, when you can't make money doing anything else, in the music business, here's another opportunity that maybe you haven't thought about. You're listening to this edition of...
Hey, this is Reggie Ham, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey, it's Chris SD from Sync Songwriter. Imagine what it would be like getting your music into the latest TV shows, movies, or ads. Your songs would not only get exposure in front of millions of viewers, you'd get paid to do it, and gain a reputation as the songwriter that you are. I've been showing songwriters, composers, and artists how to get their music into TV and film for over 15 years. Collectively, they have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from licensing their music. Their music has been on networks such as HBO, Bravo, ABC, NBC, Netflix, and more. In films or trailers such as Predator, Annihilation, Christmas Chronicles, Professor Mac, and many others. So many songwriters upload their music to websites hoping to get discovered. Unfortunately, this almost never happens with the millions of songs out there competing for attention. I show you how to get your music heard by the people who can actually make it happen for you. When you start getting your music licensed, you automatically develop a reputation in the industry. This lets you get syncs over and over again. If you'd like to discover how to connect with the right people in music licensing, just click the Sync Songwriter logo on the Business Side of Music webpage, and I'll see you there.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag, that's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey, we're back in Nashville, Tennessee. On the phone with us today, Chris SD, Sync Songwriter. His company is really helping a lot of independent artists get their music discovered, not on radio, but in film, television, gaming, every other platform you can think of. And there's obviously a way to make money doing this. How can people find the workshop? How can they get signed up? And what can they expect? What are they going to find when they do this?
The best way to find the workshop and get into the workshop is just go to actually your website, right? The Business Side of Music. And along with this, you'll have a link on your website. Just click that link and it will take you straight to the workshop. And so it's a free workshop. There's 4 videos, which it covers all of the steps. I put a lot of work into it. I have hundreds of Facebook compliments, I say comments, but they're all thankfully compliments. So that really feels great to know that it's helping a lot of people. And, people who have gone through that workshop and then continued on with me and other things, they've done super well in licensing. We have people who have gotten their music into, the movies, trailers and all of this, like Annihilation, The Predator, the Christmas Chronicles. These are all movies. Go back to China's movies, then on all major networks like Netflix and Bravo and NBC and ABC. So we have awesome results from our students, and these 5 steps work. They're proven. And that's exactly why I built this workshop, is to help indie songwriters figure out how to license their music to TV and film and get in on something where you can make great money and get amazing exposure without having to tour or having to go after those label deals that are super hard to get and all of this other stuff. So it's a new age, and the miracle of the internet. It's in dog years, it's an old thing already. It's an ancient internet, right? But this couldn't happen before. You used to have to move to New York or Nashville or LA to get into music licensing, and now you don't. You can just have music and then just get it into the right hands remotely. It's awesome.
And I think when you talk about this workshop that you have created, Sync Songwriter. It's a video workshop, which, once again, it's not something that we could have done a few years ago. The technology has changed so much, and we got to remember that. It's the technology of this industry has now afforded the opportunities for independent artists, and I'm a big supporter of the independent artists. You know, a lot of label history behind me, but my heart always carries a special place for the independent artist. Always want to see them thrive, and this is a way for them to do it. So you're right. They can go to our website, businesssideofmusic.com, click on that Sync Songwriter tab, and that'll take them to the workshop. The video workshop, how long? It's in 4 parts, right? How long is it?
Well, it's each video is what I try to do is really condense the information into it. So you wouldn't have to sit through like an hour video, and so on. So I took a lot of time. So they're probably like about, 20 minutes long or something like that, each video. And each video addresses these steps and sort of walks you through them. It's essentially what people say. It's the best free resource on music licensing out there is what I've been told.
Right.
So super happy to get those kind of compliments from people.
Once again, if you are a songwriter looking for a way to get your music into film and television, this is the way to do it. I know that my wife and I, we have produced some television shows in the past. We're still working on other projects, and that's really one of the biggest things is that music content for those types of projects. And you said something in the beginning where there's so many different libraries of music out there that is not being discovered. It's just sitting there gathering dust because nobody knows where to look for it or what to look for. You have to grab the ear of the music supervisor. I can't say that more succinctly than that. You've got to grab the ear of the music supervisor for your song to get discovered. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, once you get one song into the system, it can, I'm not saying it will, but it can start snowballing for you into getting other music into other types of projects.
Yeah, it happens all the time. The first sync is the hardest. And then after that, you develop a reputation, right? This is one of the disadvantages of being somewhere where, if you're represented by somebody, is they get, if your song gets into production, they get the credit for it. But if you're the one placing it, if you're the one putting it in there, the music supervisor says, wow, awesome, we got success. So what else do you have? And then you can leverage that. You can also go after other music supervisors or other high-end representation and go, yeah, I've been synced before in this one and in this one. And this music supervisor loved my music. Well, that's huge. All of a sudden, you're starting to build a reputation, and it grows and grows. And, Bob, just to sort of put it in a really firm image about what we actually do with this is that basically with the Art of the Song Pitch workshop at Sync Songwriter, I'm trying to put people into the top 5% of artists trying to get their music licensed. Because the big problem is there's so many people. By following these steps, you end up in this rarefied group, and you're only competing against few people because music supervisors and the industry at large only has a certain amount of bandwidth, right?
Right.
So there's this fire hose of artists throwing music at them, which they largely ignore. They just have to. It's just a defense mechanism, right? They're humans. So what I show people is here's how you get into that bandwidth so that you're in that top 5%, the tip of the spear that basically gets into that spot. And that's exactly what this workshop helps you do.
I think this is a wealth of information, and any indie songwriter out there that's looking to advance their career, to me, there's no better way to get your music heard than in a project, whether it be Annihilation or the Christmas Chronicles or you name it. Not only that, it's kind of cool to see your name and the song rolling in the credits at the end if that happens. That's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely. That's the best feeling in the world, yeah.
How can they find you?
syncsongwriter.com. They can just pop over there and check out what's going on at Sync Songwriter. But I would say that the main thing, the most valuable part is that I want to give you guys, because I love what you guys do, Bob. And so if they really want to get straight to the workshop, that's the best way to do it, is just go to the business side of music, click on the Sync Songwriter link there. And that way we know they came through you, and we can put them straight in there without any hassles.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, man.
You bet. Thanks, Bob.
Don't forget to check out our affiliates, including Lab Canna, fine hemp products since 2014. Click on their link on our website for more information and how to order their product line. If you're interested in getting your music into film or television, click on the Sync Songwriter link on our website. Absolutely the best way to get your songs listened to by top TV and film music supervisors. This is how you can get your songs quickly licensed for your favorite TV shows and movies. Click on our website link to get a free digital copy of Larry Butler's new rulebook for singers and songwriters, 101 ways to help improve your chances of success. Also, check out our other affiliate, Music Starts Here. You can find them at musicstartshere.org. Probably the best one-stop shop for the singer, songwriter, or aspiring musician who's relocating to Nashville or wants to. Last but not least, shameless plug for this podcast. Become a YouTube subscriber by going to the Business Side of Music page. You can hear all of our released episodes there. Also, check out our website at businesssideofmusic.com. Follow us on Facebook at the Business Side of Music Podcast and on Twitter at Biz Side of Music.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
When's it gonna start?
I don't know. When's it gonna end?